Give yourself up peacefully. No one has to get hurt here.
We're all familiar with the fact that the cancellation of Silent Hills was a shocking and sad moment for horror fans that probably still has an impact to this day, and many of us are waiting for the day when we hear about its return. However, what many people seem to fail to realize is that Silent Hills wasn't actually the first horror masterpiece that vanished from the gaming world, and it wasn't even the last. In fact, before PT, there were even more intense horror games that existed and people enjoyed before they were completely removed from the corners of the internet, and none of you can access them now. Other ones came after the cancellation of PT, and they were supposed to be a replacement for it, but somehow they had the same fate and literally disappeared without coming back. You might recognize some of these titles if you're a horror enthusiast, but I'm positive that some people will probably have a hard time remembering certain games on the list due to the fact that they can be old or forgotten. What's more interesting is that the reasons behind the creation of some of these games are diverse and unique, just as there were also different reasons behind their surprising demise. That's what inspired me to make today's video, in which I'm going to showcase to you 7 horror games that I personally believe were of high quality and had amazing potential before things went in a completely different direction. So let's not waste any more time in the intro and just start the countdown. If you were a big fan of horror in 2017, then there's no way you didn't hear about this game or notice its existence in the horror gaming universe. It's an enigmatic game, and many players didn't understand its story at the time and were playing it blindly, but I'm going to explain it to you briefly. The events here take place in a luxurious house, and you play as the owner, Robert Valentino, who is a prominent physician who is involved in a medical operation on a woman that tragically resulted in her death. All the clues and signs indicate that the doctor, Robert, committed a mistake during the operation, and he obviously can't remove that idea from his head. Even though the gameplay might seem like the usual concept of someone hiding from danger, the main theme here is actually guilt and regret and the fact that the doctor cannot move on after the unfortunate incident. The inspiration from PT is also very clear in the game, but it's even intensified further with incredible realistic visuals that make the residents feel more alive than ever, especially since the antagonist here is a woman who keeps moving around the house, which makes your mission of avoiding her far from easy. However, if we dig deeper and activate our imagination, we'll realize that this woman is basically the patient that died at the hands of the protagonist, Dr. Robert. And she probably only exists in his mind and is part of his hallucinations, considering how he could never forget her. Anyway, even though the demo was available to download and play for some time in 2017, and I personally was lucky to play it, it was eventually swiftly removed from every website online due to copyright problems and legal issues. The developer was literally getting accused left and right of stealing assets from well-known games like Resident Evil 7 and The Evil Within, so basically the whole crew started punching the developer from every side until he gave up and took the game down. Some theories also suggest that the story of the game was the main reason that got the developer in trouble and attracted so many critics towards him. Anyway, the developer responded after the controversy and pledged to replace the contested assets with original creations, but this transition never transpired, and everything about the game, including its social media, was removed completely. So the guy basically erased his tracks and ran away forever, and he probably lives in Antarctica now.
Beth, you were right before. Someone is here.
Hey, do you copy?
Affirmative, General Betty.
Don't be a kiddo, Scotty.
Copy, General Betty.
And here comes a chopper.
To chop off your head.
Chip,
Chop,
chip,
chop,
chip.
chop. enter the school, Beth. Please.
When I saw the initial footage of this game, the first thing that came to mind was where the heck I could pre-order it so I could play it as soon as it saw the light of day. But sadly, not everything we want ends up in our hands. Death of Rose is a third-person horror project developed by Artur Lakowski, who is a designer who used to work with Blooper Team and contributed to many titles, including popular releases like Layers of Fear and Observer. The game takes direct inspiration from Silent Hill, which is the main aspect that captured my attention immediately, because it's hard to make something not scary when it's influenced by a terrifying franchise like Silent Hill. The story is even more interesting because it centers around a guy named Scott, a radio enthusiast who embarks on an inquiry into an abandoned school with a sinister past, and this is obviously another reason to get us hooked because schools are an amazing setting for horror. The game focuses on incorporating facets of exploration and survival while combining them with a narrative that mixes elements from the real world and the supernatural. Another reason that made me fall in love with this project is the camera angle, which allows us to observe the environment from all directions because obviously the threats were meant to be everywhere and anything can jump on us at any moment. However, after all the excitement and anticipation that we had when this game was revealed back in 2020, it all disappeared into thin air after a short period of time when the developer suddenly announced that it had been canceled and he moved on to something else. He killed our hopes in a matter of seconds, as if everything had never happened. Anyway, the point, guys, is that we will never play this game, but gladly there's actually a similar one called Stray Souls that's planned to release soon, and it might actually be the best compensation for us.
Actually, it is rocket science, Beth. Every time someone doesn't follow the rules of the game, he dies.
And he returns as a ghost or reincarnated as a villain in the sequel? Yeah.
We also used a similar, unique to each player approach when designing the horror elements of the game. By making each moment unpredictable, we maximize the feeling of
Remember that
tension
story,
for our
Beth,
players.
that my granddad used to tell?
The one about a man with no mouth?
Yeah, it suddenly came to me here.
After releasing the game, we would love to see a lively community of players all sharing their own unique experiences and impressions of Death of Rose.
Get out of my way!
Target has teleport capability.
He's right behind me! Kill this son of a bitch!
Grab wave enabled. Target is escaping.
I have a strong feeling that the trailer that you just saw definitely moved a part of your memory and made you wonder where you saw this game before and why it looks so familiar and bizarre at the same time, especially if you haven't played the first one. Prey 2 was intended to be a sequel to the 2006 game Prey and was planned to take a different approach from its predecessor. The original Prey was a first-person shooter with elements of gravity manipulation and portals, but Prey 2 was envisioned as an open-world science fiction game with an emphasis on exploration and bounty hunting. In this version, you would have taken on the role of a guy named Killian Samuels, a former US Marshal turned bounty hunter who becomes trapped on an alien world inhabited by various alien races, and many of them are not peaceful at all. Despite showcasing promising gameplay demos at events like E3, the game's development proved to be difficult, and it faced numerous setbacks that ended in 2014, when Bethesda officially announced its cancellation due to concerns about the quality and progress. The decision was met with disappointment from fans who were looking forward to the sequel, including me, who literally still remembers the day when I watched the first trailer and lost my mind from excitement. However, it's worth noting that in 2017, a completely different game titled Prey was released by Bethesda, and this Prey is basically a reimagining of the franchise, featuring a different story, setting, and gameplay mechanics. Even though it's a good game, I personally don't see it anywhere near the canceled one, and Bethesda really did us dirty when it killed our hopes of putting our hands on it and exploring its weird and interesting environment.
Target identified. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1
The Peterson case, also known as Once Upon a Time in Roswell, is a game that probably many of you have never heard of or even seen any of its footage online, even though it can be considered a masterpiece when we dive deep into its story and concept. It appeared out of nowhere in 2021, and it actually had a demo that you could play, and this is when things got even more interesting for us, because the demo basically made us more excited about it. The story takes place in the United States in 1947, which is a perfect time for a horror journey, because as we know, nothing optimistic happened in the 1940s in real life. Anyway, the protagonist here is a detective tasked with solving the perplexing disappearance of the Peterson family, but things will eventually turn out to be much more complicated than a disappearance case.
Not a single trace. There'd been reports of strange behavior with the locals in the nearby town. Reports of strange sightings and lifelessness among the younger children.
As you explore the abandoned home of the family, you are drawn into a story that feels like a haunting novel because the house keeps changing its shape and reveals disturbing memories and even alien creatures. You can also see the realism in every detail, from the case files on your desk to the coffee stains and green lamp, that create a tense mood that makes us actually interested in solving the case as much as the detective himself. Things will even intensify further when you start listening to the radio talk about UFOs and extraterrestrial events, and the detective starts to doubt his own beliefs about these phenomena. The game mixes historical and fictional elements in an incredible way by creating a world where war memories and cosmic horror intersect, which will eventually reveal the horrifying truth lurking behind the Peterson family's disappearance. If you think that's all this game is about, then allow me to disappoint you, because aside from the exploration and investigative gameplay mechanics, it also has a survival side where you will be provided with a gun that can help you defend yourself from the mysterious supernatural entities. Stealth here is also an essential element of survival as you collect evidence and uncover the multifarious fragments of the Petersons' fate by navigating through memories and flashbacks that make you question what's real and what's not. It really breaks my heart that we couldn't experience all of this and probably never will. Even though the game is not officially canceled, it's really evident that its future is mysterious and doesn't provide any glimpse of hope, considering the fact that the developers haven't declared any updates in the last 2 years. What's more painful is that we know for sure that this project is real and has potential because we literally had a chance to try it when the demo was available, but sadly, apparently something prevented the creators from finishing this masterpiece, which made it join the list of incredible unfinished projects.
Single mother with 2 children. Nobody saw the kids playing, and the mother was only ever seen at night. Something wasn't right about this place.
I'm pretty sure many of you have never heard of this game or think that it's some kind of joke or something, but I'm positive that Resident Evil enthusiasts know exactly what its history is and why it's not a thing anymore. Resident Evil 3.5 was basically the working title for an early developmental version of the 2005 game Resident Evil 4, and this prototype aimed to pivot towards a more action-centric gameplay experience compared to the survival horror aspects of its predecessors within the series. The events here are set within a European castle and centered around Leon S. Kennedy, who is afflicted by a virus that induces hallucinations, which means that you as a player must maneuver through the castle evading zombies, apparitions, and assorted creatures. What made this version even more unique is that it took significant inspiration from Silent Hill and embraced a notably somber and atmospheric climate, distinct from the tone of earlier Resident Evil installments and even Resident Evil 4 itself. The fact that it showcases a more supernatural and paranormal atmosphere with elements, like ghosts and hallucinations, is something we've never experienced in any Resident Evil game, and it feels like Capcom at that time wanted to have a piece in this category, after the success that Silent Hill 2 had in 2001. However, things felt too good to be true, and after some time, the project was abandoned because the developers kept fighting each other and each wanted his ideas to be executed. They had so many creative differences that made developing this game an absolute pain, which eventually led to the total dismission of the whole project and starting to work on its replacement, which was the one and only Resident Evil 4. So we basically lost the chance of having a game that combines both Silent Hill and Resident Evil into one experience, and its success would have resulted in more similar installments to this day, and the name would have been changed to Resident Hills or something. However, what a lot of people don't know is that this project actually inspired the developers to make the best installment ever in my opinion, which is Resident Evil 7, and that's why this specific installment has more horror and atmospheric elements than all the others.
Fear of darkness is not the fear of absence of light, but of the possible or imagined dangers concealed in the dark. Vad händer nu då?
Turn the camera light on.
You're living a nightmare in a 3D world never before seen in a website, and you have to do whatever it takes to get out. Like taking a picture of a psychopath, singing a demon baby to sleep, and making it out of a madman's cell.
Okay, this one is definitely the weirdest on the list, but I wouldn't be exaggerating if I said that it can also be the coolest and most creative, despite the fact that it's old. To make it clear, guys, this is actually a game that was available, and people literally played it before it vanished from the internet. The reason for that is that it's not a normal game that you can download or buy for yourself. It's basically a browser-based horror game that was designed to be played exclusively between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m., which means that you can't access it at any other time, and this is mainly to make things even scarier and immersive. The game was set in a haunted hotel, and players had to explore the hotel's rooms and corridors to find a way to escape. But it's not as easy as it sounds because, along the way, they would encounter a variety of monstrous creatures as well as other strange and disturbing events. On top of that, they must also solve some complicated puzzles, and in some cases, they even have to use their webcam and microphone to make some noise or even sing to interact with demons in order to progress. Furthermore, it had a lot of unsettling imagery and creepy sounds that were designed specifically to evoke a strong sense of fear in players. to the extent that a lot of gamers at that time literally made online groups talking about this game day and night and became addicted to it. Many reports also stated that many players who played the game after midnight went missing in mysterious circumstances, and they have never been found to this day. Nevertheless, a large number of the girls who interacted with the game have also started having broken nails on a daily basis for no logical reason, and even the doctors couldn't find an explanation for the phenomenon.
Are you kidding?
Okay, I need to stop because I'm obviously going crazy and I'm starting to say things that make absolutely no sense. Anyway, aside from the last part about the missing players and nails that I made up, this game was actually insane when it came to atmosphere, even though it was initially created by the company Doritos as a marketing campaign without expecting that it would reach this level of success and popularity. It was available to play for 3 years between 2008 and 2011, but it sadly disappeared afterwards without any notice or explanation, and the only thing left from it are the horrifying memories that people had with it. There are actually players to this day who consider it the best horror game ever made and see it as a revolution in the genre because it has some gameplay mechanics that were ahead of their time and you can't even find in modern games. So let's all remember this horror masterpiece and hope that someone will revive it sometime in the future.
Get out of there. You're mine.
Over 2.5 million people in 136 countries have experienced Hotel 626.
After the cancellation of Kojima's Silent Hills project, people were in complete desperation for something that could replace the same experience or emulate it, and that's exactly when this masterpiece suddenly made its way to the lights. Allison Road was considered a spiritual successor to PT, and this was confirmed when the gameplay was released in 2015 and was met with positive reception from critics and fans who were impressed by how amazing the game looks and feels. The story of the game is still a mystery to this day, but it's obvious that it took place within an apparently deserted house, requiring players to venture through it in order to unravel its historical enigmas. It was also said that you had the capacity to engage with your surroundings and solve puzzles as a means to advance through the gameplay, which is something familiar in all horror experiences, as we all know. Beside that, the biggest danger here comes from a female antagonist who apparently had a tragic and distressing past, and she probably wants some payback from her husband, who seems to be the protagonist. The graphics are above any kind of criticism because, to this day, only a few titles have managed to reach this insane level of detail that makes the house literally look like a real one in real life, and not in a video game. But just like every game on this list, everything that starts well ends with the news that makes our excitement fade away as if we were in a dream and we just woke up. Eventually, the development of Allison Road hit several bumps, including the cancellation of its Kickstarter campaign and the departure of its lead developer, Christian Kessler. At this point, the hope was starting to vanish, but it was still there. However, in June 2016, the game was officially canceled due to financial issues and the absence of a sponsor that could fund the game properly and help bring it to light. But the story didn't end there, because in August 2016, the game's developer, Chris Kessler, announced that he would be reviving the project under the new studio name Far From Home. But as usual, there have been no updates on the game's development since then, which means that we're way far from the game and not just home. However, things didn't end there, because after 5 years of mystery, some reports started to circulate again in 2021, stating that the game might be revived and development was being reconsidered. But as of today, Allison Road is still unreleased, and its future remains a puzzle that we'll never solve. Which is honestly sad, because the atmosphere of this game still feels unmatched, even though Visage can be its logical competitor. Okay guys, hopefully today's video was enjoyable and informative and made you realize that Silent Hills is not the only project whose cancellation broke our hearts. The only game on the list that actually has a chance of seeing the light is the Peterson case, and it's still listed on Steam to this day, but I don't know if the developers will have mercy on us and release it, or they will abandon it forever. If you know any other title that had the same fate as the games mentioned in this video, please don't hesitate to mention it in the comments below after you give this video a thumbs up, of course. Anyway, until next time, stay safe and keep the horror going.